It is 3:31, so let's go ahead and begin. Call to order the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority, City of Crescent City, County of Del Norte, State of California, regular meeting for August 21st, 2018. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Cowan? Here. Commissioner Greeno?
Here.
Commissioner Howard?
Here.
Chair and Score?
I'm here. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will open up general public comment. Any member of the public may address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off the agenda. After receiving recognition from myself, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any general public comment this afternoon? Yes, Ms. Cooper.
Hi, I'm Cooper. I sent everyone an idea that didn't make it to this, summary chart. I don't know for what it's worth. It just, although you would have to have these prepaid bags be delivered to a manned bin of some sort. I see it as an easy thing to try, and it may save trash on the street. It may ease the burden of people in outlying areas. They may be inclined when they come into shopping into town, hey, I'm bringing my recycling in to get some money at Hambros. Well, I'll just bring this prepaid bag in too. Take care of all my little trash and my recyclables. When I see the huge cost of setting up a northern transfer station and the length and expense that we're going to try to provide something to the outlying areas, I think, well, this enhancing self-haul, when people are already coming to town to buy things on a regular basis and go to doctor's appointments, and everything is in our hub here, why not make it easy for people just to drop in and bring their trash on a one-trip, do-everything basis? And it would serve outlying areas as well as city areas, as well as low-volume trash makers. So if it was an expensive and arduous thing to do, I'd say, forget it, maybe we're duplicating. But it's a unique idea that would add a lot of convenience. People wouldn't have to wait on the lines, and why not try something that has such a little investment to it and potential return. So, Alan Cooper, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing no other public comment, we'll close public comment. We have 3 items on consent: the minutes from the July 17th, the director's vacation request for September 3rd through the 9th, and a budget transfer of $24,412.
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any public comment on consent? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back. Would you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair and Score?
Yes. Out of respect for staff's time, if the authority is in agreement, I'd like to take item 6.1 prior to items 2 through 5. Is that all right with everyone?
Yeah,
any objections? All right. Item 6.1, Mr. Ward.
This was requested at the last board meeting. Specifically, what was requested was that we move our late payment fee up. It used to be assessed at day 90. At this point, it would be assessed at day 60. And we also state in there that there is at day 90, an interest fee of 0.5% of the total outstanding balance is also assessed. So you can see those changes are underlined. We also have attached a letter that we plan on sending out to our charge account customers. And based on the advice of our legal counsel, Martha Rice, she suggested that this not be effective until November 2018. So staff would recommend that the board approve these modified procedures for collecting balances due from commercial charge accounts as described.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Ward or for?
And Kathy Brewer is here as well to answer questions.
No, or for Kathy?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the changes. Do you have a second? Have a second. Do you have any public comment? Seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back. Would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair Enscore?
Yes. All right. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. As we were looking over our procedures, Kathy did identify a couple of other things that we might update at future meetings. I assume that it's okay for staff to bring those issues forward to the board for your consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Please do. All right, let's go on with our agenda then. We're under number 2, Treasurer's Reports, which also includes our Director's Report 2.1. Mr. Ward.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Enscore. So summarizing once again, our facilities were open on our posted hours, and we provide these services without receiving a penny in taxes. We do receive user fees to keep the facilities operational and to report to overseeing agencies. And the rates charged at authority-managed facilities continue to be lower than any comparable facilities in Humboldt or Curry counties. The budget transfer, in addition to adjusting the contingency budget, also rolled over grant budgets from the prior years. And Kira Seymour prepared that budget transfer with advice and counsel from Auditor Clinton Shad. So we very much appreciate that. Regarding facilities, the Hambros Forest Products buyback was closed between July 21st and August 7th. And I understand that after August 31st, the buyback will be moving. And we're not sure of where that will be moving to, and we'll announce it as soon as we have further information. Regarding finances, agenda items 6.2 are the reports from McLeod Watts, formerly Bickmore, regarding our OPEB payments. I'll cover that at that time, but essentially it does project that our required contribution will go down based on our payments from the last couple of years, and that the amount we have budgeted is more than will be enough for our required payment this year. So that's helpful. I did confirm with Catherine McLeod that it's like paying down a mortgage. If you pay extra, then it pays down your principal and it reduces future liabilities. So it's not quite the principal, but the same principle does apply in that if we pay the full amount that we budgeted, that will reduce future liabilities. So generally this affirms and rewards the strategy the board has deployed thus far in addressing those OPEB liabilities. Regarding compliance, it is time for the 5-year permit review of the Crescent City landfill. So I've attached a preliminary application. We have to use an updated form, and we're going through that process. As mentioned, the electronic annual report was submitted a little bit late, as well as a quarterly disposal report that was also slightly delayed. 1st of August is always a very busy time for the agency, and so our staff was devoted to the county fair, which we had a booth at, and I very much appreciate the additional help from the crew of Hambros and Recology Del Norte, as they did help us staff the booth. And Recology donated the prize this year, which was 3 months of free trash service, trash and recycling service, of course. And the winner this year was Caroline Kramer. So we called her, and hopefully we'll be able to get her that certificate soon. Our main activity at the booth was to ask people to sign the pledge, essentially pledging that they knew that we have too much trash in our recycling and that they would do their part to try to reduce it. So that seemed to be fairly popular. Other items that are not otherwise going to be on the agenda. Last meeting, I was directed to submit a letter regarding the Mattress Recycling Council, and specifically asked that hey, if you're not going to use the money here, can we have it? But at the time that I was composing the letter, it was really clear that the Mattress Recycling Council's annual report had just been submitted to Cal Recycle, so it seemed to me the most effective way to make the wishes of the board known would be to participate in their evaluation of that report. And in keeping with that evaluation, based on some of the comments received, like those from this agency, Cal Recycle at this time is recommending that that annual report be rejected, and that the Mattress Recycling Council really needs to do more to come into compliance with this extended producer responsibility program. So that, I think, is positive advocacy. In addition, both Kira and I attended the annual conference of the California Resource Recovery Association. That's the statewide recycling conference, and specifically both there and at the Rural Counties ESJPA meeting, we discussed both disaster debris planning, essentially planning for all of the stuff that needs to be cleaned up after following a disaster, and organics and food scrap recovery. Urban areas in California are being required to do quite a bit more with regards to yard waste and food scrap recovery, and those requirements at this point are simply deferred for rural counties like ours. I'm advocating at ESJPA and other places that the one-size-fits-all of do it just like the urban areas but later will not work particularly well for the rural areas, because when we start looking at, say, the challenges of collecting and processing food waste, that is a very significant additional expense and additional program that we have not engaged in thus far, and it would be a very significant challenge. Not that we do not support the goals of Cal Recycle in terms of recovery, but I think that there might be another approach more appropriate to our county. And finally, during the past month, we did hire Kristen Scott as a new refuse site attendant, and another one of our refuse site attendants, Ron Fleshman, gave notice. So we are doing interviews later this week for those additional openings. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the director's report.
Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Ward in general before we maybe touch on some of these within the agenda itself? Okay, seeing none, let's move on then and look at our finances.
Okay, so item 2.2, I had a handout for you. Essentially, our finances are continuing to look good, thanks to Kathy Brewer, who was here earlier, for keeping our accounts receivable up to date. Everything over 90 days has already been turned over to collections. Regarding the claims approved by director, once again, you'll see that the largest payment, as usual, is to Hambro Waste Solutions Group for the good services they provide at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. There was also additional payments for our actuarial evaluation you're seeing in item 6.1, and those are the larger of the expenses. Regarding our finances, skipping to the back, you can see that our revenues are still ahead of budgeted projections. So at this point in time, just 1 month into the fiscal year, we are about $9,600 ahead of budget for tipping fees at the transfer station, and we're about $750 ahead in terms of franchise fees. So generally, things are looking good, considering that we're still crawling ourselves out of this dark red hole associated with the liability of the landfill. So that concludes the financial reports. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
I just have one question. What is our policy, and what did you do with the counterfeit $20 bill?
An excellent question. I'm glad that you found out about that. As soon as we found that we had received a $20 counterfeit bill, we called the sheriff and put it aside for their collection as evidence. As far as I know, no further result has come from that. And
so, what's the procedure for balancing the accounts when you have?
It's a cash shortage.
Okay. I just wondered if there was some specific policy that addresses that.
It doesn't fall into a different category because it's a counterfeit bill. We try to be very attentive, and as soon as we get one, we cover it in staff meetings and have everybody on the lookout. Thankfully, one of our employees did recognize the individual who was trying to pass the counterfeit bill, and so that was also reported to the sheriff.
Very good. All right. Any questions regarding finances from Mr. Ward? Okay. Any public comment on finances? Seeing none, we'll move on
to item number 3, which we don't have. I guess we'll go on to 4.1.
That's the bullet list that you have in front of you. And if we could have that up on the screen, I'd like to invite General Manager of Recology Delmark, Jeremy Herber, to discuss this issue.
Basically today, we're going to just do a high-level overview real quick. We're good now. Thank you. So we're just going to do a high-level overview, kind of, a little bit of history, kind of some changes in the last few years, where we're at kind of today, and roll of the dice of really where we're going in the future. We really don't know. I mean, it changes daily. So what I'd like to start out with is, Recology has pretty much been in business since the 1920s, and we've been serving Delmark County for over 30 years. So we're pretty proud to be here and look forward to continuing more. Basically, the contract that we're in right now was effective July of 2011. So that's when pretty much the contract we're working under right now was signed, and that's when we agreed upon all the information in that contract. And then for the 7 years or so, we've done pretty well with that. We've been able to work well within those parameters. Really, the big changes started to take place when, of course, when Gelender started having some issues with their recycling and some other issues. They were pretty much letting us know that they were having a tough time moving the material. They were starting to feel the pinch for multiple reasons. They were also hand sorting, which was a lot of labor expense. So there were some issues there, and we've got notification from them pretty much January 1st of 17. They pretty much told us that we can't take your recycling anymore. Therefore, forced us pretty quick to go figure out somewhere to take it and hold it and move it in about a 30-day window. Luckily, we somewhat pulled that off, and effective at the same time is when we rolled out Change Order 9. That pretty much was the elimination of styrofoam cartons, rigid plastic, film plastics. That was all kind of all at the same time for the fact of that material needed to go to Humboldt Waste Management Authority, and that material there had to be removed in order for them to take that material, so we had to truck it out there. So that was another history progress. After that, we signed a processing agreement with Samoa with the requirement of 10% or less. Of course, they're still working with us, but they've been good to us to continue to work with us. That was signed in October 20th of 17. And technically that agreement ends the same time our franchise contract does, in June 30 of 2023, basically. So it's going to be coincides with that. So basically, their material is processed and shipped to market from that location. They have the line of automation that can do it a lot faster than it used to be done by hand. It seems to be the most economical way. And of course, if as Del Norte, whether they go up or down in fluctuations, they can pretty much have the system to control the flow of that material better than somebody that would do it by hand. So there was some advantages to that, but there was also some disadvantages to it for the fact that we had to move it out there to that plant to get that done. So that leads us kind of into the transportation portion of it. So we've been transporting this recycling material loose. We started it with Humboldt Waste Management Authority, and we eventually shipped it to Samoa. Technically, we're shipping out 3 loads a week, and that's 52 weeks a year, so it doesn't stop around the clock. So we're consistently getting 3 loads out of here. And we do a little bit of picking of the material, some of the big stuff that's on the floor here, and disposing it prior to it leaving. Metals, anything we can get out. We try to get as much cardboard out as well, and try to keep that here in Del Norte County for processing here internally. basically processing with Samoa. So basically what's going on right now with the National Sword in China, pretty much almost every processor in the United States is charging a processing fee. We're paying a processing fee. So there's fees associated with trucking, and there's also fees associated with them processing the tonnage. We get charged by the ton. Now, where they're still trying to get those numbers negotiated and figured out in general, but there's processing fees associated with our recycling. Basically, back when the contract was initiated, for some people who may or may not know this, you know, recycling back when the contract was signed in 11 and even previous to that, about 80 to 85% of the material collected in a blue recycling can had a market value. That market value is then used to offset collection, and you come up with a number. That's the number we use for the cart size customers choose from, and it's kind of an offset. So the new number that's been kind of coming out now in the nation is they're getting about 41% of the material in the blue can is now marketable. So there's a change in that. So what happens is those expenses keep going up and the value is going down. Unfortunately, the easy solution is to say, why are we doing it? Well, California says we're going to. In fact, they're actually putting out another law here. I think it's AB 1826, I believe, where they're now going even higher. They're now starting to say, hey, we want less trash coming from businesses and residential, and they're moving to almost 75% diversion, and we're not there. So they're going to continue, even though the National Sword's having issues, they are going to continue to expect that diversion rate to climb. So one way or the other, it's going to have to be addressed. So that's with processing. Also, along with the changes of Jalindrez, you know, we originally signed that agreement where we took that material to them for free. They processed it. they kept the profits, and that's kind of where it went. And that's how our contract basically was agreed upon. What's changed is, of course, we've got, again, the trucking. We've got the processing fees. Also, we had to have an additional building rental, and on top of that, we had to hire an additional person to help manage that product. So there was some additional costs that have since showed themselves. And then from there, what we are doing processing here in Del Norte County because is the cardboard. So, you know, we're actually having this gentleman at times go through. He's pulling cardboard out of, he's walking through the piles, pulling that out. He's trying to salvage what he can, along with some of the other cardboard that, you know, we collect here throughout the community is being processed, and it's going to market. So that market also has been volatile as well. It's still down, but there's something there. One of the big things to recognize is paper. Paper was about 70% to China, is who took all that, and China doesn't take any right now. They take zero. So we're working some other East Asia markets. Luckily, Recology does have a lot of very good relationships, and we are getting orders. So for the material, we're not really backed up. Our floors are pretty empty. We're moving the material. There's just no value in it. So just to give you an example, at the peak there, paper per ton was about $205. As of last week, we got $4 a ton for it. So you can see the difference. It is being recycled. It is being reused. It's not going in the landfill. So there is some value there. But the cost is, I mean, materials just doesn't have the value. That's where we're at today with that. As for the future, you know, we really don't know. We know that this overseas market is not going to get better tomorrow. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. They really have an industrial problem over there, and they've shut down a lot of plants. I do know that there's some scuttle of, you know, they're trying to get some more domestic markets open, and maybe that's a good thing for us, but that's not going to happen anytime soon either. So it's not just Del Norte that has this problem, or just the state of California. It's a nationwide problem. Everybody's addressing this, and it's up to me to be transparent with that, with this community, with the board, to let you know that, you know, this not only hurts us, but it's hurting others too. And so that's basically what I wanted to do today, was just be transparent, let you know kind of some of the dilemmas we're facing, what we're trying to deal with, and hopefully we can find a solution to work together to get, to move forward. That's really our mission here, is to be a part of the solution with the community and with the board, and how can we help. And unfortunately, the circumstances are way out of any of our control. So glad to take any questions if you have any.
All right, anybody have any questions for Jeremy?
Not for Jeremy.
No?
No, I mean, I see the problem, and I'm just not sure how we're going to get away from it. There is, I remember we walked the plant in Samoa, and it was just so backed up, and they were doing the hand sort. And did I hear you say they're no longer doing the hand sort down there, or they are?
No, the hand sorting was done at Jalindra. So
No, but they were doing hand sorting down there as well. Remember, they were sitting up there?
Well, that's different. Yeah, that's so they're pulling out some contaminants on a conveyor belt, but there's an automated process that goes through. That plant is also, as of December, having some upgrades done to it with screens and doing some other things to make it even faster so it can handle more material and pull out more contaminants. So there's some investment from Recology side of that is going to get that plant better.
So when we were there, they were just backing up with product that they had nowhere to ship it to. Was that, I'm assuming that's
right.
a concern because China wasn't taking it. And then the other thing was, are we still the only one that is sending so much contamination? I know Eureka was down to less than 4%, and they were at 2%. I don't know what all the different areas are doing. We were just extremely high. I know we've done nothing in the county to curb that. We're still where we were. We have a very high contaminant percentage. And are we still the only ones taking it down there that are there with such a high contaminant level?
No. So that's a great question. So no, we're not the only ones that have a contamination problem. This isn't just this is not a Del Norte problem. This is a problem with other places too. There is other people that are bringing some material in there that are having some issues, but they're also addressing those the same way we are. I mean, we're working on them. We're working with Mr. Ward and some of the ad hoc to address that concern. And so, we're all towards the same goal. I don't know if I would say they're pretty close to where we're at right now. Remarkably enough, our contamination has dropped noticeably. Is it where it needs to be? No, but it's getting there. I think, but I don't think we can get any further without other steps. I think we've really worked pretty well to get to this point. We have seen a drop. That's the bottom line. There has been a drop. It's been better, but it's not where it needs to be. So, did that answer all your questions, or is there another one?
Yeah, I have felt the last year and a half that I've been sitting here that we're not moving. So to hear and it's not, I'm not saying it's our fault, because going down there was very eye-opening, seeing what was backed up, seeing, talking about the costs that they're no longer getting on the different classes and the different products. I know that, and for me, talking to people from Eureka and how they got down was something nobody up here was willing to do. And that's my struggle sitting up here is we have to take drastic steps to change this. Yet in the time I've been sitting up here, no one's willing to do it. So I don't know what those steps are going to be. I hope the ad hoc has come up with some great ideas and solutions. I think the transfer station north is going to be huge. I really do. I don't know why I think that's going to be a great fix, but I just feel that that's going to be not the complete fix, but a good fix or a good step in the right direction. And I'm just wondering what other people are doing to bring it down as well.
It's a good point. There's only so many different ways you can collect trash. I mean, within reason. I mean, there's only so many options available, unless something brand new comes out, the robotics or, there's only so many ways to do the same task. So there are options available I was asked to present options. I will continue to look for every option available to present to this board and the community and let you guys figure it out. Really, it's not my job to pick one for you. My job is to perform a task that's requested by this community and by this board to say, this is what we want, this is the package we want, this is what we want our residents to have, and my job is to make sure I get that done for you guys. That's what I'm here to do. So I know it gets kind of twisted sometimes. I'm not trying to sell any one of these options other than we've got to try something. That's where we're at. You know, and I look forward to continue to find that solution for this community and work through it and try to be, you know, change sometimes can be hard, but unfortunately, I think we're at a point where something's got to change. I just don't know what that's going to be. Yeah. Anything else?
Anything else?
Well, I was also going to say that a lot of the stuff that we are promoting is a lifestyle change for a lot of people, and so lifestyle changes don't just happen overnight, and so the fact that we have had some change, I think, is a positive thing in my mind. But people, as I said, don't change overnight.
Correct.
So it's an education thing. It's a change in the way we do things. So anyway, thank you for being so upfront and everything with the explanation with what's happening overseas. Sure. And I really appreciated your presentation.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chairman.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Ward, anything you want to follow up on with that, or you want to move on?
Well, I do appreciate Mr. Herber's presentation, and I really wanted to make sure that the board was aware that essentially things are pretty different than how they were when we started the contract, both in terms of processing, in terms of costs, in terms of revenues for processed recyclables. All of those things have changed, and they've changed in ways that have increased costs. And I just feel like the board needs to be aware of that as we're trying to make our choices moving forward. So with your permission, we'll move on to item 4.2, which is a reiteration of something you've seen before. Essentially, as we've been discussing, what we're looking to do is to get to what our contract says, which is we as a community need to have programs that have 10% or less of contamination. And I'm presuming, because that's what's in our contract, that the board is committed to doing that. And so here are some options that we'll be looking for some kind of action next month to be able to reduce the level of contamination, which is still well above 10%. So under our contracts, we essentially need to take action so that we are taking actions to reduce that contamination in a tangible way. And so the new item that's on this table that wasn't there before is a suggestion by Chair Inscore, which I think has a lot of merit. And essentially it's a soft transition to something that Mr. Herber had suggested. Mr. Herber's suggestion was that there would be fewer people putting trash in their recycling if the standard cart was, say, 60 or 90 gallons. Because if with that larger trash cart, then when people they wouldn't run out of space for the trash and then dump it into the recycling. So that was kind of the motivation behind that suggestion, and it's worked effectively to reduce contamination in other communities. The downside of that suggestion is, of course, some people who are, say, getting a 30-gallon cart or a 20-gallon cart, their rates are going to go up quite a bit. Even no matter how we negotiate it, that's almost certainly how it will turn out. And so one of the things that was discussed as we were discussing these options is some people were feeling like they were being punished because here they're trying to recycle correctly and yet they're being forced into a situation where their costs would go up, and so they feel like they're being penalized. Well, we still need to take some kind of tangible action to reduce the contamination. So Mr. Inscore's suggestion was that if customers who had signed up for Recology service had bags in hand that they could use for their overflow trash, there would be an extra charge for using those bags. But if they had those bags in hand, then when they had too much trash that would fit into their trash bin, they could use that extra bag and put it next to the trash bin rather than putting the trash in the recycling. And the other shoe that would fall under this program would be if they continued to put trash in their recycling, they get one warning, and after that warning, if there's a second infraction, they automatically get bumped up to the 60-gallon cart forever. So it's a way of saying very emphatically, we're very serious, no trash in the recycling. Here's an option about how to deal with the extra trash. There will be an additional cost, but it won't be a full extra cart. And you've got to take this as seriously as we take it, because you only get one chance. So that would be another option that isn't there currently. There are a couple advantages of this option. One is that you don't need to buy a whole bunch of 60-gallon carts to roll them out all at once. So it's a soft transition. The other thing that's a big advantage of this is it really focuses on the people who are a problem. And that if people are repeatedly putting trash in their recycling cart, those habits will come to an end. And they have an option that would be acceptable that would not cost them as much. So all of those are positives, and I think there is merit to this suggestion. But again, we still have the other options that we've discussed, and I'd be happy to go over those if you would like. But we are looking for some kind of tangible action at the next meeting.
So what's the difference? You've got a 30-gallon cart, Jeremy, and you have a bag that you're being charged for. What's the cost there versus a 60-gallon?
I need to interject. There's a lot of details to be worked out on this.
I know, I'm just trying to, obviously there's got to be a difference, otherwise you wouldn't suggest it.
I'm going
There's
to do
a
my best
savings.
to answer this because it's still kind of very green. Basically, a bag is about, we sell it for $8.
Hey, okay, I thought it was 6.
So technically, if they were to set that additional bag out, they would also get billed for that bag pickup in addition to their normal service, and they would, they would get. There's just a lot of how do you manage the the pickups and the deliveries of bags and the who use their bags, and there's some.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot to that to try to manage that. So it's a great suggestion. We're just haven't really
You're
sat
not
down.
liking it. How much is a 30-gallon bucket?
It's you're going to try to quote me on something.
27?
I think it's 27.
Okay, that's what I thought it
And
was.
a
So I'm just trying to get a
60
guess.
is 37. I think it's $10 more a
So
month. Yeah.
you're only saving $4.
Well, if they use 2 bags in the same month, then they actually go over
They're going
the
to go
60.
over that.
So
what's
It gives an option so that part of the impetus of this was that people, again, were feeling penalized or feeling like they ran out of trash space. What are they going to do? Where else is it going to go? And so
To show them that they're spending more money with a 30-gallon, that it's going to be cheaper for them to do a 60.
I'll answer any questions if you have any, but that's where we're, suggestions where we're at. It's still, yeah, okay.
Yes, that's what would happen under that concept. That wasn't my concept, however. My concept was not that we were going to charge them for these. When I first presented this, I looked at it from a standpoint of a label, and that for a customer that has service every year, that you get a couple of extra pickups of a bag. So if I'm a Recology customer, and I've been paying my bills, and I've been a customer for a year, that I get these 4 labels that I can use anytime during the year, that if I have too much garbage, I can have this really identifiable label, slap that on my bag, stick it on top of my cart, and know that that's part of being a good customer and part of not contaminating the waste stream. That doesn't make anybody any money, but it may address the problem of contamination. If we get back into what you were asking, if we're charging them the rate that they're already being charged to buy the bag, I can tell you what's going to happen with that. Nothing. Nobody's going to do that. Once they start realizing, well, this is costing me $8 every time I do this, let's see, I can do the responsible thing and pay $8, or I can just keep doing the behavior I've been doing and shove it in there. So I think that to incentivize good behavior by providing this as part of what it means to be a customer. And we had this when we lived down in the valley. You got four tags a year that you could put a single bag of trash in. And I don't think that we ever used all 4 of ours in any given year, and they were dated, and so when the year was out, if you didn't use them, you didn't collect them all up and you know, hawk them to your neighbor type of thing. I mean, I didn't. Maybe you could. I was looking for ways to. I'm sure. I was looking for ways. Something Mr. Greenhouse said was to change behavior, and changing behavior by charging people more may, but it may not. And so that was my initial suggestion.
It was, and where it got morphed was a couple concerns. One is that the bags that we sell are unique, so they have an identifiable. They're white with the big R on it. Plus, they are rated to handle 40 pounds. We were concerned about people using very lightweight bags up to 40 pounds, having them tear birds. There's one issue. Two is that we live in a place that's very wet, rainy, and windy, and if a sticker blown off or somebody walked over, removed a sticker and stuck it on their bag, that makes it a challenge too. So that's kind of where we were trying to think of how can we morph into the bags that people are used to seeing. I think it's kind of along the general ideas. I like your idea. It's just a matter of it's just controlling it. That's where we're struggling, is controlling the operation of the system. I like the idea, so people who are doing the right thing are not being penalized. I love the idea. I'm just trying to figure out how to manage it. That's where the challenge lies. So.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Are there any specific items on this 2-page? There's a second page to this, but of this list that the authority would like to propose for any kind of action in our September meeting?
Well, I was just thinking, a lot of these things that we're talking about, we want to make permanent. But what I was thinking is, if we're trying to change behavior, okay, give people a chance to change behavior over time, and if they do better, maybe they can appeal whatever the change was. Say we decide to make it, if they have the 30-pound or the 30-gallon garbage can, and they did something to make us upgrade them to a 60. Maybe after a year of good recycling or something, they can appeal that, and possibly go back down to the 30 to incentivize good recycling. I don't know. It's just a thought. I just don't. I'm not too big on the permanent. You know, you're never going to be able to do garbage service again, or you're always going to have the 60. You know what I mean?
I do.
I mean, we're a service organization.
But there needs to be some mechanism by which we have to say, if you put trash in your recycling too many times, that's not an option for you anymore. We can't have you participating in a system where we have a 10% limit and you're submitting a 30% contamination. That's right. That needs to come to an end. We need to have tools to bring that to an end.
I agree to a point, but then we need to be a little gracious at times, and because we are, in the end, we're serving these people. These are our customers.
Agreed.
So you have to have give and take in this.
Okay. Anything else? Chris, anything?
So thank you for this discussion, but I do emphasize that any decision will be difficult, and that if we're going to reduce our contamination, action is required. And so we will be looking for some kind of action at the next meeting.
Can we go back to the first page of this, please? Thank you. Would the members of the board be in agreement to continue to have a discussion and possibly bring back a tighter concept of this overflow trash thing, or is that something you guys are
Yes.
not really interested in?
Yes.
Okay. We've got consensus to at least keep working towards something. Is that okay?
I think,
Okay. Well, it's the only thing, and I mean, not because it's my idea, I'm just trying to find something that we can keep working towards that maybe we can put into place, and I don't see that there's any of these others that we can jump on right now, so, okay.
I think it's a good possibility, like, give
But
them.
we'll just keep working together and see
whether-
if we can't come up with something.
Yeah, whether it's 3, whether it's 4 a year, but then after that,
The additional advantage of this
After that, you-
program, assuming that we can develop it and work out the details, is that it does engage the larger community in the discussion. There are definitely some people who, for all of the good outreach that Recology has tried, whether that be newspaper or radio or Facebook, there are some people who still aren't being reached. Maybe they're not reading their bills. In any case, the message is not getting to them. And yet, we still need to make sure that those people who are not being reached are engaged in reducing contamination.
I was going to add to what
Yeah.
we were saying, but maybe after 3 or 4 of those bags, we start charging them for them. That's what I was going to add to the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we look at that cost analysis, and we'll keep talking about it with the ad hoc and see if there's a strategy that moves forward, and we'll bring it back in September. If there's not, then we'll tell you there's not. And we'll go to next. All right, public comment.
Thank you. I'm also hearing that the board is still committed to the 10% contamination level. I'm not hearing any suggestion that we alter that.
Okay,
Correct?
what's that?
I'm trying to confirm that the board is still committed to a 10% contamination level, and we're affirming that we need to take steps to get there,
Yes.
that we're not there.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Yes?
Thank you, Eileen Cooper. I like your idea of the extra bag rather than a giant trash container, because when you get a giant trash container, it speaks out to you, fill me, you know, rather than, all right, here's where I'm supposed to reduce, and I don't think it sends the right. But the idea right now, we do have, if you get service, you get free of charge 2 large items a year. So we already have that built into the system, so it could be similar to that, or replace that. You can have 2 big items, or 4 bags. You can do one or the other. However, I think that is the way to go with that idea. Just build it in, and no extra charge, and see where it goes, and see the result if it helps. And you know, you can always revisit. If it isn't helping, you can always go to the bigger bins and go to that expense. Okay, and I didn't get a chance on 4.1 to speak, but so in my great fantasy land, and I go to all these meetings, I put together solutions that probably will never happen, but I see a cooperative where all our homeless people come to this working cooperative that sort out the trash beautifully, because they can figure out how to do that pretty easily. And they get a roof over their head, and they get lunch served, and they sort out trash, and everything is solved, and then I wake up from.
All right, well,
So,
thank you.
Anyway, I just, giving people who need to feel like they they have a place in this world and something constructive to do and something over their head. So I don't know, but I see big empty buildings there and people without a roof and needs like this. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cooper. All right, we're going to go on to 5.1, transfer station, discuss with possible action regarding the putting out RFP for professional services.
Can I ask?
Mr. Ward? Yeah.
No.
Okay. So staff recommendation is that the board direct staff to work with legal counsel to complete and distribute a request for proposals based on the scope of services outlined in this report. These are services to help us locate a site that might be suitable, or several sites that might be suitable for a northern transfer station. So it's a site selection process. It's identifying properties, listing them, mapping them, going through several criteria, then presenting a short list to the board for selection of 3 or 4 properties, and then negotiating a right of first refusal on those 3 properties, and then helping us with the request for proposals for an engineering firm to design the transfer station facility, and finally overseeing the completion of the environmental document. So that could be most likely a mitigated negative declaration, or potentially an environmental impact report, but I do not foresee that as we would have alternative sites. One of the advantages of this strategy is that previously when we were trying to locate the Del Norte County transfer station, after we got through the permitting process to a certain point, it became really clear where the transfer station was going to be located, and the purchase price went up significantly at that point. So the negotiating a right of first refusal on 3 properties then allows us to have a predictable cost and to select a process without that cost changing as we were doing the environmental review. I'd be happy to answer any questions or make modifications to the scope.
Just, you have Elk Valley Crossroad. The intent was for Smith River, so north of the Fred Haight Drive, or Smith River, whatever you want to call it, but definitely not Elk Valley Crossroads north.
Okay, north of Fred Haight Drive?
Yeah.
Dr. Fine Bridge, that's
yeah.
good.
So, and I know we've talked
Great
about
feedback.
Tallahwood Dean Nation before, and
Right.
they don't show an interest, but now that they got that big old project going on and they're about to build 21 homes, they need to have buy-in on this. This is their community. I bet you they even have some property up there close to it that maybe they're willing to come into these conversations again. I think we absolutely need to reach out to them.
I will do so again with Mr. Howard's help, because he is working on a 2x2. I know I want to make sure I'm approaching the right person.
Yeah, correct. And with Bree back in the saddle, I think it's good timing. Okay. So, yeah, no, for all the points that Commissioner Cowan listed, absolutely 100% need to re-communicate with him.
Okay. I will certainly invite them into the process once again. And, but I don't want to delay this project in waiting for an engagement that may not come.
Okay.
So one last thing to mention on this, because I think it's important. Oftentimes we've talked about the northern transfer station in the context of concern about contamination of the drop-off facilities that are in Fort Dick and Smith River. And while I think that there is some validity to that, I really think it's important that we separate those discussions at this point, because the timeline that will be necessary to develop this facility is going to be such that it could take a long time, and we're going to be looking to take actions to reduce our contamination at a faster timeline than it will take to develop the transfer station. So while there is some relationship, I think it's really important that we no longer have to talk about the northern transfer station every time we're talking about contamination. And similarly, when we're talking about the northern transfer station, that will not, in all likelihood, be fast enough or sufficient enough to actually significantly reduce our contamination level. And so I just wanted to make sure that we all had that understanding.
Yep. Chair, I'd move to approve that we direct council to complete the RFP with the outlined scope of services as amended to reflect north of the Smith River.
Second.
Your Dr. Feinbridge, is that the language you
Yes.
wanted to use? Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any public comment?
I'm assuming staff and works with legal counsel, yes?
Yes.
No, it just says council on there, but staff is fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Eileen. I notice Eli Naffa isn't here, but I remember when this idea of the northern transfer station and the problem with contamination came up previously a year or so ago. I thought he had a really good idea, and that was a kind of mobile station for recycled things, trash that would park and have it all on a mobile vehicle. I thought that was kind of brilliant. So I don't know whether that idea, Phil, it might help in, might be easier to achieve on a short-term basis. Anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back. Would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair Inscore?
Yes. All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Howard. All right, we are going to go on to 6.2 regarding our OPEB funding and the letter from McLeod Watts.
Thank you. These are required reports that we have to do every other year. Essentially, it is an actuarial evaluation of our liabilities associated with post-employment benefits. Generally, these are underfunded throughout California, and so increasingly there are laws that require agencies like ours to acknowledge these liabilities on our books. And so this last year we paid 160 some thousand down on that liability, and we are rewarded in that as of June 30th, 2019, our liability goes down to 140,724, and as of 2020, it'll go down to less than 60,000. So this affirms the board's approach of trying to pay down these liabilities, and we do have, like I said, budgeted 163,000 or 64,000 and some change. So we have over budgeted that, and if we need to, we can potentially modify that amount. But if we don't need to, then, like I said, it's somewhat like paying extra on your monthly payment for your mortgage. You're paying down extra principal, reducing future liabilities. So that's the status of this report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, have any questions? As I shared with you, Mr. Ward, my personal opinion is we have the money budgeted unless there's some compelling need that would require us to reallocate that $12,000 or whatever. I would just as soon make the larger payment over this period of time because these things have a way of adjusting with the changes in our market and everything else. And so I think that anything we can do to pay down this long-term liability when the money is good, I think we should do that. So I would advise not making any changes to our budget, but to go ahead and keep that rate where we are.
Okay. In future budget transfers, I will try to pull from other lines.
I was going to say, this year we've had month after month after month where we've gone over our projections as far as our budget and revenues are concerned. So I think that keeping with the past, I think that we should continue to pay. I'm just reiterating what Mayor Inscore said.
I guess, and my thought is that in 2 years we may be at that point where we have to put out a significant more a larger amount of money, whether that's towards the transfer station, northern transfer station or whatever. So if we pay this down now and that OPEB liability is only $50,000, then we can be reallocating those budgetary monies to projects or whatever that are coming up, so.
Excellent.
Okay,
So receive and file, there's no further action.
perfect. Okay, 6.3, which is
This is
Legislative
SB
matter.
212. Staff are recommending a strong support for this bill. This is an extended producer responsibility bill for sharps and pharmaceuticals. Currently, we pay about $6,000 a year to manage sharps. We collect them for free at the Delaware County Transfer Station. We also have receptacles at the Community Health Center and the Senior Center, which we occasionally collect. But we do receive those for no charge. Pharmaceuticals, the only time that we can take those is during our household hazardous waste event and during the sheriff's or police drug enforcement agency collection events. And so they are an ongoing issue, not only from a solid waste management perspective, but also from a community health perspective.
But why is it that we can't have them brought to the transfer station and just have a collection?
They're hazardous waste, for
I
one,
understand.
and so they need to be managed as such. And we only ship hazardous waste from our multi-material collection event once a year. The other materials are what's in the industry called ABOP, which stands for antifreeze, batteries, oils, and paints. Essentially, it's all the recyclable materials that are regularly received at hazardous waste collection facilities. And so pharmaceuticals aren't exactly recyclable in the same way.
Gotcha.
okay. Any other questions?
I just figured if we had a place for people.
No,
to
it's an
hang out.
excellent idea, and there are
Lockbox or
receptacles
something.
available, but anytime we start a program, we really want to make sure that that is, that we can continue that program. And so that's why staff are recommending support for SB 212, because it would establish a statewide producer-funded take-back program for sharps and pharmaceuticals. And it's appropriate that the companies that are producing these things be on the receiving end after they've finished their useful life. Because if there's anyone who can recover it, it's the people who made it.
I think we have consensus to send a letter of support of SB 212.
All right, I'll take that.
The last item is discussion possible action regarding scheduling a special authority meeting in September and canceling the meeting on the 18th.
We checked the availability of this room, and it's unfortunate that Mr. Howard isn't here, in that the meeting dates that were most available are the Tuesday before and the Tuesday after, which of course are the same days as the Board of Supervisors meetings. So that has been a challenge in the past, but we did check the Monday and the Thursday.
Say that, wait, back up, because the reason this didn't work is, one, I'm gone the whole week, and I know he's gone, it's RCRC that week. So the Tuesday, the Tuesday, literally the 11th.
The
before
11th
and after, and
or the 25th.
Those are both supervisor meetings.
That's correct.
So we either go into a late meeting afterwards, is what you're thinking?
Well, assuming that the Board of Supervisors are done by 3 o'clock,
That's a big assumption.
but these are the options I was able to find.
What if we were to change the meeting to Monday the 10th?
I did not explore Monday the 10th. We can, if,
Or the 17th? I don't know.
17th, we
Or,
have.
I mean, what I meant is the 24th.
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 Is here at 4
Oh,
p.m.
that's
And I have a 3:30 conference call on the 10th with Cal AFCO. so-
the reason for pursuing these date changes was that Commissioner Naffa was not going to be available on the 18th.
And
neither
you're
are-
not available on
And
the
I'm
18th?
not, and Chris is not.
Ah,
Chris is with RCRC that week, he's in Napa, and I'm in Palm Springs that whole week.
okay.
So there was, but yeah, there was quite a few of us for that week, didn't work. So we need to look at the week before, the week after. And you said you're not available the afternoon of the 24th?
The
Is that what you just
LAFCO is
said?
in here at 4 PM on the
Okay.
24th. We could,
So what
if
about
we
the-
could go before that, I don't know whether or not 2 o'clock is a time frame that we can
But
do.
you've already heard Chris say that he would prefer earlier because of, he's going to have, oh, no, he's not.
He won't have agenda
I have
review on
agenda
the
review, but
25th.
he doesn't. Yeah, I do, and mine's in the morning, but it's no big deal.
2 o'clock on the 24th works for me.
Kira, can you call upstairs and see if that's available? Or maybe go back to that phone.
On the 24th, is that what you're talking about?
Either that or do it in the afternoon of the
24th.
25th after you guys'
Does 2 p.m.
Board of
on
Supervisors meeting.
The 24th.
I recall them saying they never wanted to do that again.
Yeah.
Well, I understand.
For 4 p.m. on the 25th, is that what we're thinking?
Yeah.
4 p.m. on the 25th? I'm sure the room is available.
Yeah. I'm just texting him upstairs to see what he thinks.
Oh, okay, that's helpful.
I don't have Eli's, but
In the meantime, Jeremy mentioned AB 1826, which is law, and
Yep.
And there is a provision in that which you may or may not be aware of regarding exemptions for organic waste.
Yep.
Have we filed for that?
Yes, we have.
Okay. And
Essen-
are we looking at the countdown component of that of 2020? If we are not at 50%, then those exemptions go away?
At this point in time, it is a countdown. What we're required to do is to assess the approximate tons per year of an organics facility that would suit us, and that's the limit of our requirements at this point. But the law basically does say the requirements that are coming down on the urban areas are simply delayed, but they will be coming down to the rural areas as well. And we're trying, I'm trying to advocate for other potential possibilities.
I can't imagine getting to 50% by 2020, considering we're at 0% now. Right?
Oh, we're not at zero. We're actually doing quite a bit better than that.
Well, good.
Anything?
Of course,
No.
anything above 0 is quite a bit better than that, right?
25th
It's all
works
right.
for Chris.
Okay, then.
That would be after our meeting.
Okay.
I don't want to get smacked, because I think I.
So,
really- think-
I have it in
think-
writing. I know, I remember, it was me too. It was a
I think
long
I
day.
think there was an actual threat of violence if I ever scheduled another meeting on your guys' day, so I don't really want that. If I can avoid it.
There's no answer up there, okay?
So,
Then we will pursue the board's request, whatever that is.
The 25th at 4.
25th.
25th at 4 o'clock. Well, I can confirm that it is available then.
Yeah, it'll be available.
So 25th at 4 o'clock. Now, there was also the mention of wanting to change our regular meeting time to 3 o'clock. Martha, do we need to do anything? Do we need to schedule a meeting for that to be an
do we need
official
to
action?
put that on next month's agenda to
He
actually?
basically is saying either day at 4.
Okay.
So the 25th at 4 or the 24th at 4.
Okay.
Just make
We'll
it
go with the
4. All he's
20
saying is
Let's
just
go with
make
the
it 4.
25th because I know that the room is available.
24th, it's not.
Okay. And he can
have a
just
meeting here.
put on his
Okay.
big problem.
Okay,
Martha?
so do we need to put it on the agenda for September if we're going to make a change of our permanent meeting time?
So September
Yes, I
24.
think it's contained either in a resolution or the bylaws. So
Okay.
Well, if you will-
One of those will need to be amended.
If you guys will research that and put that on our agenda for the 25th, that would be awesome. And we'll go forward from
Okay.
there.
So we're doing 4 o'clock on the 25th.
Correct.
And are we going 4 p.m. going forward on our
Oh,
meetings?
no, we're going to look at whether or not we can move, at the mechanism of how we adjust the regular start time to 3 o'clock for our regular meetings.
Okay, and talk to Chris, because he's kind of saying maybe do it at 4 and he can do gender review before that.
Okay, I will
'Cause
consult with
Eli-
Mr. Howard.
Yeah, do
Right.
that, because now he thought I was talking about something out in the beginning, and his comment was 4 would work and do agenda view before, because I remember Eli, Mr. Naffa, having a problem getting here earlier, if I remember correctly,
Okay. Well,
for meetings. I don't know why I think that.
We will have email communication about that. Thank you.
Okay, very good. We done?
We're adjourned to our next meeting, which is September 25th at 4 PM. It'll be a special authority meeting.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone.